This is the cemetery in Ashville, PA. It's on a windy hillside along State Route 36, about a half-mile up the mountain from the crossroad that marks the center of this small coal mining town. Graves here date from the early 1800s. If you grew up around here, the family names are familiar: Lidwell, Brannigan, Szymanski, Burgoon. Parents, grandparents, classmates, and neighbors, these are the families of Ashville, past and present. And in these graves lie beloved mothers and fathers, husbands, wives, brothers, and sisters. But here, at this grave site, there are no remains. The name on the tombstone is John A. Lipple. John was 24 years old when he died. He was on the USS Arizona at anchor in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. On a bright, sunny Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941, the day that will live in infamy. John had a weekend pass to go on shore, but his buddy was on duty, and it was a Sunday, so John stayed on board. He and some other sailors planned to attend Mass and then head shoreside for the afternoon. It was not to be. Of the hundreds of bombs dropped that day, just 4 struck the giant battleship Arizona. One of the first ricocheted off turret 4 and set fire to the captain's pantry. Another fell to the rear. And then, at 6 minutes after 8, a 4th bomb hit. This one penetrated down through 2 decks. Within 7 seconds, it had ignited the ship's store of ammunition, tons of black powder for the ship's 14-inch guns. The result was a huge explosion that observers say literally lifted the Arizona out of the water. The sides of the ship blew out, hurling shards of steel hundreds of feet in the air and killing 1,176 American sailors. Fires on the wreck of the Arizona burned for 2 days. John's body, along with many of his shipmates, was never recovered. Today, the sunken remains of the USS Arizona still lie at the bottom of Pearl Harbor. Straddling the deck is the USS Arizona National Memorial, dedicated in memory of those who perished that sad day at Pearl Harbor. John's name is inscribed here on the commemorative marble panels. For the little town of Ashville, his death vividly marked the first day of the war in the Pacific. But he was really just one of many from this small mountain community who served their country with honor. John's 2 younger brothers had joined the Navy. The middle brother, Paul, was actually at Pearl Harbor on December 7th. He was serving on the destroyer USS Reed when the bombs began to fall. In the midst of the devastation, Paul was the sailor who climbed the tallest smokestack to remove its canvas cover so his ship could get up steam and escape to open water. There, gunners fired at Japanese planes and downed one of them. While Paul was okay, he had seen what happened to the Arizona. This is the postcard he sent to his mother.
Just a card to let you know that I'm still all right, and hope to be for some time. Have you heard anything from John or Joe yet? Well, as you know, all mail is censored, so anything personal, just hold it till later. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Your loving son, Paul.
A few days later, an official telegram arrived. John was missing in action. Then, at year's end, this.
Mrs. Caroline C. Lipple, Box 103, Asheville, Pennsylvania. After exhaustive search, it has been found impossible to locate your son, John Anthony Lipple, shipfitter first class, U.S. Navy, and he has therefore been officially declared to have lost his life in the service of his country as of December 7th, 1941. The Department expresses to you its sincerest sympathy. Rear Admiral Randall Jacobs, Chief of Bureau of Navigation.
John, or Johnny as they called him, had been especially close to his mother. He was bright, industrious, and very likable. The family was heartbroken. The youngest brother, Joe, who is now 88, shares his memories.
There were 6 of us in the family, 3 boys, 3 girls. Well, John went to school right down the hill here in Mark Hanna. It was a one-room schoolhouse. He was very intelligent. Math, he and my Uncle Huey, they were algebra nuts. And they would get together and work problems in algebra. And I never could understand that because I never could tackle algebra. But he was good, and he had a great future in the Navy. He was studying to be a warrant when he was killed.
Around the time John was born in 1917, his family moved from Altoona, up Buckhorn Mountain to the Chess Springs area near Ashville. His dad was a carpenter, but he got a job mining coal with the Peel Coal Company. Then Peel went out of business, and Tony Lipple worked with his wife's 2 brothers, the O'Connors.
They had a mine over on along Route 36 there, and they furnished coal for the Mercy Hospital at the time. And they got their own truck and hauled the coal, dug it, took it down, and put it in the coal bin down at the Mercy Hospital before they went to the gas. But they made a living at it.
John was about 12 years old when the Depression hit.
It was rough. Depression. The Depression was on. We all knew how much money each of us had. 0. Kids mostly had their own way of doing fun, you know. We got down in the woods, and it may not have been too legal, but we felled these huge trees and made dugout canoes. And that was the summer we had a ball.
There were good friends and good times. But by 1935, when John graduated from Patton High School, the unemployment rate in Asheville was almost 100%. There was no work, no mining, no timbering, no future.
A young fella come out of high school, you had to do something. Well, there were no jobs. So the next thing was service, go to service. A lot of the fellows tried, and a lot of them didn't make it because of their certain things. They were very selective because they had their pick, you know. And it was a little tough to get into service. So John did make it to the Navy, and he went to boot camp down in Norfolk.
It was a hard decision to leave home, but as it turned out, John loved the Navy. He was assigned to the USS Relief, a hospital ship. Over the next 3.5 years, John traveled to Cuba, then through the Panama Canal, and on to the port of San Pedro. It was a great life. The war in Europe was escalating, but John was far from it on the USS Relief. He was seeing a beautiful and exotic part of the world. He was learning a craft as a pipe fitter and ship's machinist, earning a regular paycheck and sending money home. Life was full of adventure and opportunity. When John's tour of duty ended, he planned to get a job welding in the Brooklyn shipyards. With the build-up to war happening in Europe, this seemed like a good move. He applied, but when 3 months passed and he heard nothing, he re-enlisted in the Navy.
They sent him to an air conditioning school in San Pedro, and I think it was during that time when he was transferred to the Arizona. In the Navy, you went where they sent you.
Eventually, John found himself at port in Hawaii, and so did his brother Paul. This is the letter John sent home.
Dear Mom, haven't had much time to write here lately, so I'm sending you an airmail letter. I've been with Paul for the last week. We had a swell time. Have you heard from Joe? I haven't. I was wondering whether he was going to be with me. Suppose it's pretty cold back there now. Anyway, I'd love to get back to see you. My left arm is paining now because of my 2 shots for yellow and typhoid fever, and what a big shot they were. Don't know when we'll go back to the U.S. Man, I never do worry because I take things as they come now. How are all my gal friends back there? I've fallen in love out here, so don't be surprised if you get a daughter-in-law for a Christmas present. I'll be thinking of all of you and write soon. Your loving son, John.
That was the last letter John sent his parents. On December 7th, his brother Joe was still in San Diego. In a few weeks, he too would arrive in Pearl Harbor.
I went over and saw all that devastation, and when we went up through the harbor, you could have heard a pin drop on a ship that had maybe 5,000 men on, and it was such a shock. It was really a shock to have somebody local, somebody in your own family. Like I said, I remember it like it was yesterday because I was in San Diego and I heard it on the radio about the attack. And I was 17 at the time. They never found John there.
John Lipple is counted among the first Americans to die in World War II. Certainly, he was the first from Cambria County. The Ashville VFW is named in his honor, but there were many sons and daughters of Ashville who served. Today, we call them the greatest generation. They won the war, and when they returned, the entire nation and the local community honored them.
After they got out of the service and came back and appreciated what life was around here. And I think we as young people growing up sort of were attracted to that. You saw the patriotism that they stood for, and it seemed like that's what you wanted to do. You had beliefs that this was the right thing to do, to serve your country. We all knew people that had served. We had the Lidwells. Tom Lidwell was one that he flew 30-some missions, if I'm not mistaken, in a B-29 bomber over Europe. And we had Brick Lewis, who flew countless missions. We had Boyd Wagner, who was in the Normandy invasion. We had Lloyd Gibbons, who was in the Bataan Death March. I remember one particular thing was on Memorial Day, when my dad would put his dress whites on. He was a chief petty officer in the Navy, and I was so proud to see him with his white uniform. We played Little League, and we wore our uniforms and marched in the parade. Looking back, I wouldn't give those experiences up for anything.
Memorial Day has become a proud tradition in Asheville, a day to honor all local veterans in all wars. It starts with a simple parade down Main Street, around the corner and up the hill to the VFW. At one time, Asheville boasted its own drum and bugle corps, but in recent years the music comes from the McConnell Family Band, an informal, musically talented group of aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and in-laws who come together to practice and march in honor of the hometown heroes who fought for our country. Patriotism is personal here. Memorial Day is a time of reunion and remembrance. There's a short ceremony.
On behalf of the Ladies Auxiliary Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, I place this emblem of eternity. Its color bespeaks life everlasting. Thus do we immortalize the brave deeds of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who have given their lives on land, on sea, and in the air.
Ready! Aim! Fire! Aim! Fire! Aim! Fire!
Then it's on to honor fallen comrades in 6 nearby cemeteries.
The big thing is to go around to the graves and honor the men in the cemeteries, you know. Don't forget. You know, you don't forget your comrades.
Parade, rest. As long as 2 comrades survive, so long will the veterans of foreign wars of the United States render the tribute to our heroic dead. Comrades, on this day forever consecrated, our heroic dead, we are assembled once again to express a sincere reverence. This grave represents the resting places of many departed comrades who served in all wars. Whenever the body of a comrade lies, there the ground is hollow. Our presence here is a solemn commemoration of all these men, an expression of our tribute to their devotion to duty, to their courage and patriotism. By the services on land, on sea, and in the air, they have made us their debtors. For the flag of our nation still flies over the land of the free people.